So this is part of our ongoing series of playing unsound chess. And in this particular sidebar, we're going to talk about what chess can do for a person professionally. And each one of these experiences I went through personally, and there are many, many more I could list, but I just was reminiscing back on a few during my life that were rather interesting and might help people who are deciding to take up the game or have decided that chess is just a game and it's kind of a waste of time, because it's moving a lot of pieces around the board and that's it. So the first thing that I'd like to point out, and I didn't take up chess with the expectation of any of this happening, but it can result in unexpected offers of monetary remuneration. I spent my professional life in the high tech industry, and in the first number of years, decades actually, I worked for Fortune 10 companies, and uh, one of the very first companies I worked for was a rather wonderful company, and based on performance, they would send us to all expenses trips paid in Hawaii, depending on how you did and where you worked and how you worked. People from all over the world got together, and the highest ranked people in their various countries and offices of profession got to go, and I got to actually go to the island of Kauai and had an all expenses week, and it was really memorable. There was only um, one resort on the island at the time. The rest were kind of like grass shacks, and it was like awakening in a new world. And I was so excited I went back the following year on my own, and just to experience the other islands of Hawaii, and went jumping around from island to island on airplanes, barefoot and enjoying myself. But on Waikiki Beach, they have chess boards, or they did in those days at least. I don't know what they have today, but they had these cabanas with inlaid chessboards, as you often find on beaches in places like California, and hot tubs in Hungary, things like that, spas. So I played a gentleman at one of these chess boards who was an excellent chess player, and he was a really stately looking gentleman, a white haired fellow, probably 55, 60 years old, was really obviously like well to do, dressed beautifully, and um, manicured and coiffed, and was a very tough player. And I was a fairly strong player myself. I was probably near my peak. I was playing very well in those days, and he gave me some really tough games. I don't know what this guy's name was to begin with, or to this day, but at the end of it, he indicated to me that he was a wealthy individual who lived uh, on Waikiki Beach, and offered to pay my existence, basically. That he told me that I was the most talented person he'd ever played. Now, is this some sort of like other kind of come on? I have no idea. But I will tell you that he got very specific about years and being basically like I would be like a court-sponsored composer. He thought I had tremendous potential, and I was going great places, and that I ought to take up chess professionally, and he would send me all over the world. So um, I never took this offer up. I was busy having my own life, and I'm a rather independent person, so it wasn't something that I would get into, the company of strangers. But he was it was an unexpected, amazing thing, and the key was that I could play really well. That was the key. Now, since then, there have been many other things that have gone on in my professional career. I can tell you about changing jobs once or twice and taking a test. They went wild with testing at some point, deciding, to find out how smart people were. And there were, in this particular company, there were components of English tests and math tests. And strangely enough, I didn't score 100% on the math test, which really irritated me. But I scored 100% on the English section, the other side of the test, which apparently nobody had done in the history of all the people they tested, which really impressed them beyond belief. And they started digging into my past and discovered that I had a habit of playing blindfold chess. And I do play blindfold chess, and at the time the Kasparov computer was out, the Kasparov 2000 I think it was, and I could beat the Kasparov 2000 playing blindfold. And they found this out through a variety of channels, and that became so widespread and so well known that it seemed like almost whatever I asked for in this company was granted me just based on the fact that they thought I was smart enough to do anything. Which, blindfold chess is it's a trick, but playing against a computer is a trick. But there are many people that play a lot more people and are a lot better at it than I was. So, and it is true. I have a number of games and professional victories against the Kasparov 2000 machine, where one of its squares went bad and stopped working. So I wouldn't call those professional victories. Those were that's what I did for fun, actually. The other things that would happen is I was a executive type and wasn't really given a lot of credit for my technical know-how, and some of the technical gurus at one of the companies I worked for were playing chess one day in the early days of chess before chess computers on a PC. They just had an interface, X window type of situation. The super techie management and the tech guys were I came over, looked over somebody's shoulder and made a comment, and they just scoffed at me like, what could I possibly know? Because they're the propeller head bright guys of the world. I don't care if I have math degrees or anything else. I was more of an executive people type person, but I could involve myself in technical issues and did quite well. At any rate, what they discovered was that when I pushed the matter, over a period of weeks and laughed at them occasionally, that I played the strongest person in the company and beat them rather convincingly. He happened to be a rather high-ranking technical manager, and ever after that, once again, the same reaction occurred. It was like all of a sudden, I was validated beyond your wildest dreams. In fact, when people were going home early and I was late, it was like, gee, could you run in and help us with our tape backup of the mainframes? So I was spinning tapes for these guys, which is way below my pay grade. But it was a great compliment that they were asking me to do something that was so trusted that hardly anybody was allowed to do it. And I was all of a sudden validated, one in the crowd, and you couldn't believe the benefit that is. Asking those guys to do things in certain situations never got questioned. So it has its professional benefits, and of course, it can actually get you a job offer in some cases, and it has in my cases. So, I had an executive once witness me beating Mikhail Tal in a Simul, and the next thing he was trying to line up positions for me and asking me all about my past, and it was kind of an interesting thing. But the one thing that's true about chess is that if you hear somebody bragging about a rating or bragging about how good they are or what they did, or giving out a lot of free advice, chances are they're not very good, and chances are they're not very highly rated. Chances are what you're hearing is a load of BS. And the fact is that talking the talk means nothing. Walking the walk means everything. If I hadn't been able to beat that guy in Hawaii, if I hadn't been able to beat the managers, if I hadn't been able to beat all those PhDs who were research scientists in the industrial league of the chess club I played for when I was a teenager, I would have never met any of those guys. I would have never had the direction I had in life, and I would have never had the job offers. I would have never had the validation or anything else that came along with it. The key is being able to perform and being able to do it. And this is what unsound chess is about. Unsound chess is the fastest track to get there with the least pain without compromising your energy for the professional world. And that's it for today. Thanks.